This is a short lecture on taking pictures at night photography. And I've had some inspirational photographers that led me into this, and I'll show you those a little bit later. We're actually out in South Dakota, a little town called Lilly, South Dakota, which is near Webster, which is sort of in the middle of nowhere, but it's off Highway 12. And this is part of a workshop that I do every summer, the Highway 12 workshop. Here's 3 or 4 days that I have to photograph, and I like to also include some night photographs. So we'll show you in just a moment a daytime picture of what used to be the center of the town. There's a pump house that had fresh water for people to get. And this is a town that started in 1870, around in there. And now there's about 3 people that live in it. While it's daytime, I thought I'd show you what I'm going to use tonight when it's pitch black and I'm out there and we won't be able to see much. First thing I have is my camera. You need a camera. And to take night pictures and to do it so that they look sharp, you're going to need a tripod because your exposures will be in the several seconds. Now, to determine the exposures, I will use a light meter, and I have my light meter right here that I use. It's a spot meter, and I'll find something that's illuminated in the scene, meter it, see what the light meter says, and make my adjustments at that point. Sometimes it gets so dark that the light meter doesn't record. It just simply says, "Oh, there's no light here." So then, here's where your digital camera can be a useful tool. You don't have to put it on a tripod. You just set the ISO, or the ASA for film, ISO for digital camera, to 320 or 400 or 200. Usually you want to use a fast film like Tri-X or HP5. That would be 400. So I set my ISO to 400 and I take a picture. And now here's a close-up of what the picture actually looks like, because I did a test last night and I saw that it was at f11 at about 4 seconds. So that gives me a good starting point. Another tool that I have is a little light, and I got it fastened to my head. I'll turn it on and I'll turn it off. Doesn't look like much now, but at night it's very helpful. Another tool that I have is a little flashlight, just in case, because you can never tell. Turn it on, turn it off. I have a little photographer's vest here, you know, put these handily, all these little tools in these pockets so that I can find them easily in the night when I'm walking around and can't see. So, yeah, and that's it. These are my tools that I will have at night, and my basic technique for night photography is to give plenty of exposure, more than you would think is necessary, and then underdevelop the film. Usually about half normal. There are specialized developers you can use and specialized techniques, but that's a simple approach. When you're using a film like Tri-X or HP5, you run into something called reciprocity failure. If the light meter says you want to take a picture at 1 second, you need to give 2 seconds. If the light meter says you're going to photograph at 2 seconds, you need to give 4 seconds. And if the light meter says 4 seconds, you have to give 10 seconds. So it builds up this reciprocity failure. If you're using T-Max films, you don't have to do that. You'd want to consult the instructions of your T-Max or your Delta films. They don't have the issue of reciprocity like Tri-X or HP5 does. So the next scene that we'll have here will be at night here in Lilly, downtown Lilly, and we'll be looking at the pump house. I'll have my camera set up and we'll be taking those exposures. Oh, I forgot one more thing that you should have. It's here somewhere. It's in one of these pockets. I got so many pockets. Light. Flashlight. Maybe it's in my camera case. You really need this. Lost. What is it? It's a wristwatch with an luminous dial so that you can see it in the dark, and it measures off the seconds. I'll find it before tonight, rest assured. I'm sure it's in one of these pockets. Actually, I have no clue where it is. I found it. It's a Casio. I got it for $10 through the mail. I don't know how it actually works, but I got it set so it's continuously running, and it counts off the seconds, and there's a little light in it, so that I can just press it and then the light will go on. So this is all very handy. Okay, now we're cutting, and we'll see you tonight when it's pitch black. Hi kids. Right now I am in Lily, South Dakota at night. And there's a big thunderstorm coming our way. You might be able to hear it, possibly even see the lightning. So I'm going to take a picture at night, and my car lights are on so you can see me. We'll turn those off. Normally I don't use car lights, but we are recording. Here is a pump house in Lily, South Dakota that was started about 1880s maybe. The pump house provided fresh water for the entire community, which at its zenith reached about 200. It's now pretty much a ghost town. So I've set up a camera, a tripod. You got to have a tripod for night photography. And what I'm going to do is, after metering and showing me that I need to make an exposure of about 4 seconds, I think I'm going to shoot at f11, which is good enough. F11, 4 seconds. I'm going to take one picture at about 10 seconds, because with Tri-X film, you always need to give longer exposure because of the reciprocity. So I'll do one at 10 seconds, I'll do one at 20 seconds. And then both sheets I will develop half normal. And then after we develop the film, I'll make a print, and we shall look at those prints. So here we go. I've set up my composition, and I think I'm ready to go before we got a storm coming our way, and I can feel raindrops coming right now. So here I go. Lots of cars coming. You know, I'm really glad that these cars that are going by didn't knock over my tripod and run me over. It's really sweet of them. So I have my film here, and it's just starting to get a little wet. When it comes to night photography, give lots of exposure. I'll do one at 10 seconds and do one at 20 seconds, and then we'll see how that turns out. Okay, here we go. So it's all set up, camera's all set up, aperture, got to stop down the lens. Yep. So first thing I'll do is, turn off the car lights. Since it's raining, let's abort. I'm standing in front of the pump house, got my camera set up. I've got my little wristwatch here, which I finally found in one of my pockets. I've got one handheld flashlight. I got another little flashlight here so I can see. Camera's all set up. I used my light meters to meter the light, and they both said there's nothing. There's no light. It's so dark. I did use my digital camera. And here's an example of what it looks like in a JPEG form. And I read the data, and the data said that it was about 10 seconds at f11. So what I did is I set my camera at f11, and I also have the the shutter set to time, so that I can click the shutter, release it, it'll still stay open, and then when I click it again, it will close. So now I'm ready to go ahead, and I think if the digital camera said 10 seconds, I think I'll just start off with a 30-second exposure. I'll do 30 seconds, a minute, then I will underdevelop by half normal. And we'll look at the negatives, we'll look at the prints a little later. Okay, so here we go. Film holder. Into the back of the camera. And let me just check things here. Make sure this guy's working. Ah, gotta cock the shutter. Yep, working good. So here's my first, oh, the other thing I need at my age, little glasses. See what I'm doing. All right, so now we're gonna take this guy out here like this. The film holder is released. The film is ready to be exposed. Get my flashlight so I can see this guy. "30 seconds. But first there's a car coming by. This is what happens with night photography. You always wait for cars to pass by. Here they come. As they pass by, we sometimes wave at them. It's always fun to talk to people as they go by at night and say, what are you doing out here in the middle of the night taking pictures? All right, so the film holder's still ready. What did I say, 30 seconds? Okay. So I'm starting at 30, and you know, you can do a lot in 30 seconds. You could, well, if somebody was with you, you could be talking. You could, if you had a beer, you could be drinking. People who smoke could light up a cigarette, but I wouldn't advise that. And 30 seconds passes rather quickly, and there we go, there's 30 seconds. So there's one picture, 30 seconds, f11. We're going to underdevelop that half normal. So let me put the put everything away in my pockets here. So now we're going to take a picture number 2, and I did mark my film holder normal -2, which means I'm going to cut the development by half, and then I'm also going to I said 30 seconds, so, but I'll be able to probably tell just by looking at the negative. So now I'm ready for a picture where I'm going to go a minute, 30 seconds, and then a minute. So here we go. So what can you do in a minute? Well, again, we get back to that problem. If you're with somebody, you can be talking. Often you do this alone, because who wants to go out in the middle of the night, take pictures of, usually it's buildings with light. So when you look at some of my photographs, you'll see I often find buildings or scenarios or scenes that during the day don't have that sense of magic. But at night, you often have a sense of magic about a place that makes it just look interesting. And it's the light from the artificial light that is almost like a stage scene. Time is passing rather rapidly. We're almost done. And there is 1 minute. Each film holder has 2 sides, so you get 2 pictures. Those of you who use roll film, you have a great advantage, because you can have 24 or 36 exposures, or 12 photographs on 2 1/4. So you have all these possibilities for various exposures, times, so it's a lot easier. One of the earliest photographers who did a wonderful night photograph that got me so excited to get into night photography was a guy named George Tice. And this is sometime in, I'm going to say, the middle 60s. And he photographed this gas station at night. And behind it, looming large, is this water tank of some type. And I thought it was such a wonderful image of an urban night scene. So in some of my own work, I also tried to do this with one photograph that you'll see here called The American Auto Parts. And it was taken in Minneapolis on Washington Avenue North. It's all gone at this point now, it's all been cleaned up, but it kind of symbolized, and this was back in the 70s, America as I saw it. Another one that I did is a photograph of White Castle, and that's taken during the 80s, 1980s, and you'll see the guy, the billboard on the upper left, the guy smoking a cigarette, and cars passing by. But White Castles have often fascinated me with their decor and their cuisine. And then most recently, a photograph that you'll see right here of a McDonald's sign and the water tower behind it in Golden Valley. That's sort of a imitation of the George Tice photograph. Finally, one other photograph that I really like is of a liquor establishment in St. Paul, right on University Avenue. Taken at night, and what I liked about the fact that the liquor store had a door in the corner, so that you see it's the corner and it goes both directions. Anyway, so I'll develop this film now when I get back to Minneapolis, under developing it, and then contact sheets, make prints. We'll see what turns out from these negatives. Thank you, and good night. Trying to put this stuff away logically.